I'm Tom Fry, Director of Performance Products at Mosaic. Meredith Bernard's story is inspiring. She traded a secure, well-paying job to build a life on a farm. For over a decade, she sold livestock feed and applied her animal science degree to educate people on livestock nutrition. Along the way, she fell in love with this community. Farming is Meredith's life calling. On her and her husband's farm, she can be found today tending cows, raking hay, homeschooling, writing, cooking, and sharing her life through her blog and YouTube channel, This Farm Wife. Meredith's work has been featured in Progressive Farmer, Successful Farming, and Ag Now magazine. In her writing, she talks about the challenges of being a young farmer, as well as navigating the traditions of older generations. You can follow her adventure and connect with her at thisfarmwife.com. Now, on behalf of the Mosaic Company, please help me welcome Meredith Bernard.
Well, hi and welcome. And well, I guess I should be saying thank you for welcoming me. I am so excited to be here talking with you today. I sure do wish that this was in person like it was supposed to be, but welcome to 2020. Where we do meetings from our friends' kitchens that have internet that we don't have access to very well at our own house. And that's what's happening today. So I'm super excited to be here. I want to start and just tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to where I'm at, and then roll into the talk about what we're talking about today when it comes to transitioning, whether that's through marriage like myself, or maybe you're coming back to the farm. Maybe you grew up on a farm. Maybe you're getting into farming for the first time, and we're going to talk about some of those challenges and how to overcome some of those obstacles. And I'm going to share some lessons and things that I've learned in the last 12 to 14 years that I've been plugging away on the farm. So to start with, though, I just want to show one small clip from my YouTube channel and then kind of go back and tell you how I got here and keep going from there. So take just a second and watch this.
Hey, y'all, I'm Meredith, a farm wife, a mama to two, and a coffee addict who believes that all our stories matter, and I really like to share my reel because I think maybe someone else can relate, and maybe that someone is you. We are all in this crazy life together, so I'm going to welcome you to join me on the farm through the good, the bad, and some days, the manure.
Okay, so that is a clip from my YouTube channel that I never dreamed that I would have 7 years ago when I came home. So I want to talk a little bit about coming home, meaning coming home to the farm. So I am not by birth a farm girl. I did not grow up on a farm. My family did not farm. Now I can say that my grandfather was a potato farmer in eastern North Carolina, but he was well done with that by the time I came along. And so I never was introduced to farming on that level. Both of my parents worked in agriculture. My dad was my dad worked for the horticulture department at State, and my mom worked in the extension department. So I was always kind of intertwined with agriculture, but not farming. Enter graduating from college with a 4-year degree in animal science and then a master's degree in ag education, and not knowing what I was going to do with my life, thinking I was going to teach, but then not being able to find a job in the field that I actually wanted to teach in. So I went into sales. So for 10 years, I sold livestock feed, horse and cattle feed, all throughout North Carolina and parts of Virginia and South Carolina. And it was an amazing job. A lot of people would say, you have a dream job. And I really did. It was a great job and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But in those 10 years, I married my husband, Lawrence, who was and still is a beef cattle farmer. We say farmer. I know some people say rancher. We really ranch and farm. But anyway, where we're from, it's a beef cattle farm. So we have beef cattle, we have some hay, some corn, and some beans, and he runs the farm then, and not so much now. I do help now, but then he was running it solely by himself. and we had 2 small children, and the grind of the corporate world just got to be a little bit too much. I was having to be on the road a lot. It was stressful. And so after 2 years of a lot of heeing and hawing, I say, and a lot of prayer, and with his full support, I decided to quit. I quit my good, steady paycheck, benefits, truck, gas card job, and traded it for a tractor. So when I came home, what happened was that I was able to tap into a couple things that I had never really had or taken the time to dive into before. And those were photography and writing. And both of those things are things that I truly found a passion for, and that I was able to start putting more of myself into. The photography became an extra source of income for our family, which was needed with my job being gone. And the writing just became a way for me to share what I was doing and what I was now learning on the farm, and putting it out there in a different form that what I found out a lot of people were relating to and wanted to hear and see more. So, and that was 7 years ago. So I've been home for 7 years now. And like I said, I did not grow up on a farm, but I came into an operation that I didn't help build, but that I was going to help keep going. And I really take ownership in that now. It's taken me a while to actually be able to really take that ownership. But now that I'm here and I'm working day to day and helping my husband, I really feel that way. We homeschool our children, so the kids are here with us every day, and they're getting to take part, and watching them learn and grow and do is such an amazing opportunity as well. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. But at the heart of everything that I do and share online, the one message that I really like to put out there and want to continually say is that your story matters and your voice matters. It matters as much to share to the world as it does to our own operations. So if you're coming into an operation as a quote unquote newbie, like I consider myself, or definitely more so 7 years ago, but there's still so much I don't know. I still consider myself a newbie at this. Or if you're a next generation and you've grown up on a farm and you're coming in and taking a larger role, it's still important to know and understand that your voice matters and your opinion matters, and your goals and your dreams and your aspirations for your operation matter. And there can certainly be obstacles to being heard, to being taken seriously, and to being valued. And I know that because I've struggled with some of that myself. And while some things are out of our hands, we can't make anybody be or think or do certain things. We can help influence them, and we can make our case. And I think we can add building blocks to help communicate better and to help the transition go a little smoother. So that's what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to talk about what some of these challenges are. And I'm sure most of them will sound familiar. So the equation of business plus family can, in parentheses there, equal messy, right? Anytime you mix business and family, it can get messy, no matter what that business is. But when you throw in a farm, it can get really messy at times, literally and figuratively. It's just rained 4 inches and we've just come in from feeding cows. It was very messy on our farm right now, but it can also get messy in other ways. We're dealing with farming. We're dealing with so many different stressors. We've got money stresses. We've got cash flow. We've got the bottom line. We've got weather. Hello, huge stressor, especially for us this year. So many things, markets, equipment failure, We run we run our farm with very old equipment because one, it goes back to that cash flow. It's paid for. And two, my husband is a very good mechanic and he can work on it. But I literally cannot think of one single day recently that something hasn't broken or something needs fixed. So that adds stress to the situation. And there's no hard written rules or perfect formula to make that always work out right. That's one challenge. So what's another challenge? Conflict avoidance. So some people have fear of conflict. And I wish I was like in the same room and I could see your faces right now. I'd have you raise your hand if you're this way, because I am a huge people pleaser. I just want everything to be smooth. I want everybody to get along. I don't want there to be conflict. No fighting, please. And that's just how I'm wired. My husband's not necessarily wired like that. He can take it or leave it. He doesn't hold on to things the same way I do. And I know some people are like that. And I wish I was a little more like that. But sometimes conflict, the fear of conflict is like the big elephant in the room that nobody really wants to talk about because they don't want to have to deal with it, right? They're afraid to talk about some things. And lack of communication, which inevitably leads to conflict, one way or the other, isn't good in any relationship. And if you're married, you know that. If you're a parent, you know that. If you're a business partner, you know that. We all need to communicate in order to keep things going. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute too. So another challenge is I've got here like an equation. And I'm really not great or good at math. I don't know why I came up with all these equations, but it's where we're at. So when criticism is greater than appreciation, right? So I know for me, especially coming into this farm, not knowing anything, and then trying sometimes and failing sometimes, it really helps me to want to keep going when I know that what I'm doing, even if it's on a small, seemingly scale, when I feel appreciated. But it seems like a lot of times, and I know this happens, especially between family, it's just the way that, unfortunately, we respond to each other sometimes, is that the criticism comes up first and foremost over appreciation. So, this challenge can be hard to handle. If I get criticized, it makes me not want to try that thing again. It makes me less likely to want to keep going and try again if you criticize me for doing something wrong the first time, right? So this is a challenge, I think, that goes with a lot of different families and a lot of different situations with farming, no matter how you come into it or who exactly you're working with. And it's always good to remember to say that word of thanks and to give the pat on the back. And I try to do that for my husband. I definitely try to do that for my kids as they're learning and growing and doing, so that they're encouraged to keep going and to keep learning. Not that making mistakes is a good thing, or especially if something's done that's not safe, then we need to make sure that they understand how to do it the right way. But throwing in that encouragement and appreciation can go a long ways too. All right, so those are a few big challenges that I see. So now, what are some ways to overcome the obstacles? These are 4 different things, and I'm going to kind of break them down as I see them. We have communication, expectations, taking your time, and looking at the whole picture. So Christmas is coming, right? Like right around the corner. And if you're like me, this is what your Christmas gifts look like. Which is not amazing. But what does this have to do with communication? So that's just a funny meme. That's really all that is. But I just want to talk about communicating and the words that we use and how that we share them and how we present them, right? So yeah, I have spent many a Christmas Eve night wrapping gifts for the children that looked very similar to this, because I mean, they're just going to tear them into them anyway. But now, thankfully, they have these gift bags, and I'm that person that shows up at Christmas family gathering with like 8,000 gift bags, because that's easy. But it is neat and tidy and put, in a way that hopefully shows the person that I did put some thought into it. I didn't just leave it in the Target bag or the Walmart bag or whatever. So I think I'm trying to wrap this up together and tell you what I'm saying here. When it comes to communication, I think that when we're trying to express things that really mean something to us and that are important to us, that we want to get across to those that we are working with, and that we have concerns to bring up, that it's good that we do that in a way that's thoughtful, and that shows them that we're serious about what we're talking about and what we want to see addressed and how we want to address it. And it just shows that you've given time and appreciation to what you want to talk about. Okay, the memes just keep coming, y'all. I'm sorry. This will be the last one, but when I was thinking about this, I was looking for quotes about setting expectations, and I came across this one from Chuck Norris, and I really liked it. He said, focus on what it is that you want, set a realistic goal, start with goals that you feel you can accomplish. Don't try to go right to the top in one leap. Every time you accomplish a goal and develop a strength and wisdom, you develop the strength and wisdom to accomplish the next one. And so I started thinking about this when we're setting goals and we're setting expectations, to set them realistic and kind of think of it like a ladder. And then the meme is just, it's a Chuck Norris meme, and it's funny to me. I hope someone appreciates it. But really thinking about our expectations as a ladder, and the fact that, we can't just go from the bottom rung of the ladder. This makes me think of a grain bin, because I had to climb our new grain bin the other day, and it's very tall, and I really don't like doing it. And that's one of those other things that I'm just going to have to get over and learn to do. But you start at the bottom, and then you go to the next step and the next step. There's no way to go from the bottom all the way to the top. We have to set those expectations the same when we're dealing with our family, when we're dealing with the people that we're working with. We have to remember that we have to take steps. We have to take baby steps. We have to take one step at a time, and think about, are your ideas and or the changes that you want to implement doable in whatever time frame you're thinking of, and how are they going to affect the other people that you're working with? So that's the goal ladder. Just remember that when we're setting expectations, we should set them realistic. Does this mean that it's not okay to set really high goals? And no, I say it's not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying don't dream, don't set the bar high, just set it realistic each step that you need to get where you want to go. I'm the biggest dreamer in the room. I'm the dreamer. My husband's the realist. And so I like to think that helps us mesh well together, even though sometimes it's more like this. But yeah, it starts, every dream and every expectation and goal that we're trying to achieve starts with that first step, and it needs to be a realistic one. And this kind of goes hand in hand with that. I just came up with this sentence here. One pass doesn't get the whole field bailed, right? Just thinking about how all these things that we want to do and these goals we have, they don't happen necessarily ever overnight. And they're not going to happen without lots of baby steps, without lots of steps. And so, like, I think about the process of hay, because we do a lot of hay on our farm. I haven't really talked much about the farm. I should have done that. We have beef cows, and we raise all of our own hay, that hay that's pictured there. We only do round bales, the large round bales. And my job on the farm, my number one job is hay raker. And I take that very seriously. And I'm very proud of my job as hay raker. But when I first came here, I had no clue. And that's one of our John Deere 4440s. We have two. When I first came, though, all we had was 4320s with open cabs. So for the first several years of my farming experience, those are the tractors we used. That's what I raked hay with. That's what my husband baled hay with. It was dusty. It was dirty. I had a rake that was manual. I had to get out and push it in and out. It was a lot of work, but it was good for me. And I learned a lot through that process. And now I get to do it in an air-conditioned cab. And I've told this many times, but honestly, that was the best gift I've ever been given in my life, was that tractor. I would take it a million times over diamonds, just that tractor. It was the best gift I've ever been given. But sorry, I digress. Just thinking about the whole process of something like making hay and all the steps that it takes to get that done, from planting to fertilizing, to spraying, to cutting. And then for us, where we live, we ted our hay and then we rake it and then we bale it. And I know in other parts of the world, and I only know this because I've been online for a few years now, and I keep learning all these different practices. Some of y'all do things differently. I think you swath. Anyway, it's very similar to tedding, I believe. Maybe it just takes out one step, but there's still lots of steps that have to happen to get that bale into the form that you see here. And then there's the step of hauling it and taking it off the trailer and putting it either in the row outside or under the barn or wherever you're putting it. So steps. When it comes to farming, there's a million steps to all the things that we do on a daily basis. And it's going to be the same way with setting those goals and dreams and aspirations that we have. We just have to remember that we're going to take baby steps, and we can't get from point A to point E without going B, C, D. Okay. So, all right. So we've talked a lot about challenges. The next one I want to mention really quick is that when we change our point of view changes. This photo, I took this photo a few weeks ago. We were setting up some grain bins, not the two in this picture. There's a larger one behind me, but we were over there working. It was getting dark, and I just happened to round the corner, and I saw this, and I took this, and it just made me think how if I hadn't stepped around that minute, I would have totally missed this. I wouldn't have seen it, because it was here and then it was gone, and it was beautiful. And I'm glad that I was able to capture it. But so many times we forget that our point of view is not the same as other people's point of view. It depends on where you're standing, and figuratively and literally what you see and how you see it. And we all come from different backgrounds, and we all have our own views and values and beliefs. And we have to take that into consideration when we're working with people, when we're coming into these operations, however that may be. Like for me, my husband grew up on this farm. This is all he knows. I've been here almost 13 years. This is not all I knew. This was all new to me. So things that are second nature to him, I've had to learn. And I still feel like on a daily basis, I'm never going to learn this all. And I might not, but I'm still learning, and I'm growing, and I'm doing. And there's a place for me, and there's a place for you. All righty. So that's our challenges, overcoming some obstacles. And then now I want to start sharing some about lessons I've learned. But first, I've got these 3 words, and I share these words a lot when I talk to most anybody about anything, because I think it's a really important question, and I think it's pertinent to what we're talking about today. So, what is your why? I think everybody needs to ask themselves this, and I think you need to have an answer. I think you need to know what it is that's going to keep you going. What is it that gets you up every morning and keeps keeps you putting your boots on and putting on your bibs, your jeans, and heading out the door and doing this thing that you love, assuming that you're doing what you love, hoping that you're doing what you love. Why do you love farming? Why do you want to keep it going? Why do you want to have more of a say in your operation? Why do you want to learn? Who do you want to share it with? And why is this all so important to you? I think that's important. And I think when you have that answer, it's important to share it. It's important to share it with those people in your life that you're working with. Have you told that to your parents? Have you told that to your spouse? Have you told it to your children? Have you told it to your brother or your sister or your brother-in-law or sister-in-law or whoever it is you're working with? Do they know your why? Do they have their own why? And can you make those mesh to keep things going in the right direction? I think that's important. All right, now I'm also going to share a quote with you that I really love. And I also use this in a lot of presentations I give on various topics, but I think it hits home. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Do what you can with what you have, where you are." We are where we are with what we have to do with the abilities we've been given today, right? Tomorrow, we may have more. We may have access to more cash. We may have access to more land. We may have access to more equipment. We may have access to different things. But today, we have what we have. And that's what we have to work with. I think sometimes we can get ahead of ourselves wishing for tomorrow or 10 years from now or 20 years from now and not really appreciate where we're at and what we have to work with today and making the best of what we have to work with today. Because y'all, the truth is tomorrow's not even promised. And I think it's important to take a step back sometimes and do that assessment and truly see where you're at and what you've got to work with and make it work and keep those goals and those aspirations and those dreams and keep working toward them, but don't miss what's right in front of you and doing the best you can with what you've got, with what you have, where you are. Okay. So now some lessons from what I call myself an accidental farmer, since I had no idea that I would be here doing this. Even though I do like to say I didn't grow up on a farm, but I got here as fast as I could. And I do kind of feel that way. I absolutely love this life. I love the fact that we're getting to raise our kids this way. And I love that not a day goes by that this farm does not teach me something, because it does. A lot of lessons, most lessons the hard way, or some the hard way. And the first thing that the farm has taught me is that I can do hard things, and so can you. So I did, like I've said, I didn't grow up on a farm. But now I think about all the things that I do on a daily basis, and it kind of, when I really go back and assess where I was and where I am now, it kind of blows my mind. And this right here, this picture was, quote unquote, one of my big deal days. So we grind feed in the winter for our cows, for some of our calves that we're feeding out. And this particular day, my husband had a dentist appointment. Imagine that. So he was gone, and I said I would feed up. Well, when I went to feed, we were out. And I had never run the old M or the old Gale grinder by myself, but this day I decided I was going to do it because I'd watched my husband do it every morning for weeks on end, and I told myself I could, and I did, and it was a big deal. And I think it's important to just take those days and those things and realize that we can do hard things. This may not seem like a hard thing, but for me, it was a big deal because I did it on my own. And there have been so many of those things, from learning to drive the tractor and pull the hay rake and haul the hay and do the things that I never saw myself doing. That's one lesson. What's another lesson? I think that it's important to celebrate our wins. So I think celebrating accomplishments, and I think this goes not just for what we're doing on the farm, but for life in general. I just think it's really important that we take time to celebrate when things go good and things get finished. Like this picture is a photo with me and our two kids. Wesley is our son and Austin is our girl. And we had just finished putting the cover and the tarp over the silage pit, which is probably our least favorite thing to do every year because it's usually in August when it's terribly hot, as obviously it was right here. But getting that done, getting the silage out of the field and into the pit and covered and ready to sit and wait for feeding in winter is a great feeling. And I think it's important for us to take the time and to celebrate the things we accomplished, whether it's something we've learned to do or a crop that we're getting in, or even making it all the way through harvest without a breakdown. Does that even happen? It happened to us this year. We just finished combining soybeans and the old gleaner did not break down until my husband was pulling in the shed with it. So that was amazing. We made it to the very end. Okay. Another lesson that I've learned, failure isn't final and can't never could. Those are words, those are sayings. The can't never could. My husband says that all the time because I have this really bad tendency, and our kids do too, to say, I can't do that. And his answer is can't never could. And I think I need to put that on a T, and I probably will, but it's true. Failure isn't final and can't never could. And also another thing about failure that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've heard other people say, we should use our failure for fuel, right? We shouldn't let our failures stop us. We should use it for fuel to keep going, to try again. I have had a gazillion failures since I've come here to the farm, but I haven't let them stop me from keeping going and learning and doing. One thing happened. So this is my rake. Her name is Rita. So everything around here has names. This is Rita. This is my newish rake. I say new. She's 2 or 3 years old. She is automatic, so I don't have to manually pull her in and out. And I love her. She's my baby. But a few years ago, something happened and it scared me really bad. And I really was afraid to get back on the tractor again. So I was pulling her, and yes, I'm going to talk about her like it's a person. I was pulling her home, and there's a very steep hill, and I was going up the hill, and at the time, it was right before we got these tractors, which might be another reason why my husband bought this tractor for me. But I was driving the old 4320, and I did not know that if the tractor stalled, which it did, and you hit the brakes, I think I'm saying this right, it hit the brakes once and then twice. On that second try, you lose the brakes. So the tractor stalled. I had the rake behind me. I was on a very steep incline, and it rolled backwards. And I really saw my life flash before my eyes, and it scared me. We jackknifed, and luckily I didn't come off the tractor. Luckily, I'm still here to talk about it. And I'm sure there's some safety things that could be talked about there too, because I didn't know that. And I should have known that the tractor would do that. Whether I would have thought enough to just hold the brakes down the first time or not, I don't know. But anyway, my new tractor won't do that. I'm safe. I'm safe in this one. But it really scared me. And it took me a while to get back on and to pull that same rake up and down that same hill, but I did it. And then there would be something else. There's pulling, hauling the hay out of the fields and having to go up and down hills. And it scares me. But every time I do it and I build my confidence, then I realize that I can do these things. And just because I failed one time, and just because you may fail at doing something, it doesn't mean that it has the final say, right? We keep going. We learn from our mistakes. We learn when it comes to doing things better, easier, safer. And that's one of my stories. It's one of my Rita stories. And then another thing I think is valuing yourself. And when we do this, it helps others to value us. Oops, come back. So learning to realize that you are an asset. You're an asset to your family. You're an asset to your operation. You're an asset to the world. And no matter what level of the playing field you're on, you matter and you're important. I've personally had the hardest time actually calling myself a farmer. So it was easy to call myself a farm wife, and I still call myself that because I am, and I'm proud of that. I'm not one of these people that considers that to be something derogatory. I'm very proud of my farmer and of my husband, and I'm proud to be his wife. But I've finally reached the point where I also call myself farmer because I'm contributing to this operation. And I think it's important that we do that. I think it's important that we take ownership in the roles that we play and that we place value on them. And I think when we do that, when we place that value on ourselves, it helps others see us and respect us and place the same value on us and our roles and our positions and our opinions and our insights. And hopefully, if we have struggles where we don't see eye to eye, or we're in a situation where we're trying to convince or find, a common path to make decisions and to make them together, that when we value ourselves and they see that they're going to in turn value us and our opinions. So I want to conclude with that. Just, your voice matters, your role matters, your story matters, and you matter. And that I just believe that wholeheartedly. And I want everyone here listening to believe that. Okay, just real quick. This is just some of my information. If you're interested in connecting with me online, or if you have any other questions, I know we're going to do a question and answer, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm happy to answer any questions I can, as well as I can. But this is where you can find me online, thisfarmwife.com, all social media channels at thisfarmwife, and you can email me at meredith@thisfarmwife. I sure do appreciate you listening today, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have.